Dylan, thanks so much for allowing us to come up here to Mount Macedon and your gorgeous property. Can you tell us how you came to be here?
I grew up on a hobby farm in the northern part of the Yarra Valley, and my fiancée as well was from the Yarra Valley, and always both of us had an affinity with the country and country life. I sort of knew post-footy that I want to get back to land and start a family, and we sort of stumbled across the Macedon Ranges and just fell in love.
So we've got a farm here. Yep. You've got obviously beautiful vineyards. You have weddings here as well. Tell us about what goes on.
80-acre property, there's about 6,500 cool climate, high altitude vines, so Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and some sparkling as well. We do weddings here, all kinds of events really. And the restaurant on the weekends open, Saturday, Sunday, and we use all local produce on the menu, and yeah, it's a really kind of rustic experience coming up here because you get a bit of everything, some good food, hopefully good wine and a beautiful view.
Any Richmond functions? Yeah,
there's been a couple, which have been good fun. We've had all kinds of things really, corporate events, weddings, birthdays, you name it. We've been here for 2.5 years and so far it's been a dream come true.
During that time, you've played your best football, won a premiership. Is it a coincidence or is it part of that really nice life balance?
I think players definitely play their best footy when they're, settled off field. And for me, finding something that I could pour some passion into and something that I was really interested in that was completely separate to football, I found going to footy I was feeling fresher even though I was doing more off field because I was doing something I was really passionate about. And there's a lot of players I think now that are getting involved in some great things and seeing the rewards on field as well. So for me, I'd encourage every player to look and do something with their time away from the football.
How hands-on are you? What does a typical day at the farm look like?
A bit of everything for me. A farmer tends to wear a few different hats, and I don't know whether I'm calling myself a farmer yet, but there's always something to do, something to keep me really busy, and the property's going through a lot of growth, and every season's kind of posing different challenges and different tasks, and as you can see, we're spraying the vineyard at the moment in the background, and there's always something to juggle up here.
What about the manual labour and juggling that with football? Because I imagine you can't be doing anything that's going to put your body in danger.
That's probably the biggest challenge, to be honest, is I really enjoy the manual side of things and grew up doing a lot of it as well, and that's probably the part of the farm that I look forward to the most. The club's been really good with managing me and understanding that I'm doing a lot off field, and at the same time, I just have to be smart. I don't necessarily tell Dimmer that when I'm on the chainsaw or doing anything, riding motorbikes or things like that. I keep that very quiet, but it's a good balance for me because there's always something to do that, whether it's high impact on the body or low impact, there's always something to be busy with.
Are the boys at the club interested in what you've got going on up here, and are any of them farm friendly or are they all city slickers?
The guys who are from farms originally kind of come up here and sort of shrug their shoulders a little bit. It's just a normal farm for them, but it's pretty funny having some young guys come up that were born in the city and from the city and get them out on a quad bike or lighting fire or something like that, and that's a completely different experience for them. One of the first fires we had here, and just had a few guys up and a few beers and that sort of thing, we got back to training on the Monday and Jack Higgins said to me, he goes, how do you light a fire? He had no idea. He's grown up with electric heating and never lit a fire before.
David Asprey's quite handy on the farm?
Yeah, he was from his farm in Tadayun. He's now got a farm himself up there as well, and I'm always asking him for advice, particularly his dad, actually. I've seemed to have him on speed dial, ask about the cattle and things that I haven't really had a lot of experience in. I feel like I've been so lucky with the amount of help that we've got here in the first 2 years that we've, kind of opened the place up. It's been incredible, the local community support, but then also the broader community in helping us get going and get started.
What about Dimmer? Has he been up here?
Yeah, he came up once with Danielle, his wife, and he's from Tallarook, which is another farming community, so he's a real affinity with this place, and he's a pretty handy man himself, and yeah, they've got a golden retriever like us. Dimmer's been a huge supporter of this place for sure.
You say you don't speak about football or think about football too much when you're up here, but do you ever catch yourself walking around and thinking about last year and the way it ended in that preliminary final?
Not so much, to be honest, because it seems like such a long time ago now. Like, our focus pretty much from a week or two into the off-season, we're pretty firmly fixed on the 2019 season, and as a player, you do move on pretty quickly and your focus shifts surprisingly quickly onto the next season. I think this has been a really good kind of like grounding experience for me to think about life after footy. This is my 10th year now, and I've got another 3 left in contract, and then after that, who knows? So for me, it's been an awesome experience just to do something completely different, find a passion outside of footy and get active in an industry completely different to the sporting industry.
To get that closure at the end of the season, did you watch the preliminary final? What do you do to kind of go, okay, line in the sand, that's it, move on?
I did watch the preliminary final, and it was a game where I think it was quite obvious Collingwood were just too good for us in the end, and admittedly we didn't feel like we played our best. They beat us in a lot of key areas, but credit to them, they stepped up their game massively from only a few weeks before when we played them last, and I knew the grand final would go close, and I think it was one of the best grand finals we've seen in a long time.
You watched it?
I did watch it, yeah, and super impressed with what both teams were able to do, but I genuinely think West Coast were probably the better team on the day, and certainly they'd beaten us convincingly throughout the year, so I think they were very deserving. deserving winners.
How do you make peace with the fact, though, that for the best part of the year, you guys were the best team?
Yeah.
So to get that closure and go,
Yeah.
we were the best team
Yeah,
in the home and away season, but not at the end when it mattered.
I don't know if you'd ever get closure, really, to be honest. I guess it does hurt a bit if you do think about what could have been. For me personally, I felt like that we were so proud of what we were able to do, and we grew our game to another level, and there was a lot that we had to be proud of just in the way that we played for the year. And again, I think it was a step up from season 2017 where we took our game to, but I think all we can do is try and win as many games as we can and win the ones when it mattered, and unfortunately we just played probably 2 bad quarters for the year, and that was what cost us. So it's a pretty fickle game, footy, but as you saw in the grand final, I mean, it can change so quickly, and hopefully this year it is our year to change it again.
You are interested in mindfulness and the impact it can have on an athlete. Talk to us a bit about how you stumbled upon that.
It was about 5 years ago, I guess, and I was playing just okay footy and felt like I had a lot more to give, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't seem to find that next level to my game, and physically was in the best condition of my life and was doing a lot of work in that space and feeling almost a bit frustrated that I wasn't performing better. And just through contacts, happened to meet Emma Murray, who now works at Richmond and is our peak performance coach. And she just really introduced me to mindfulness at a sort of base level. And the goal was that we'd be able to achieve flow or a peak performance more often in games. And that was sort of the focus early on. And then more and more players caught on, and now it's part of our everyday program. It's well and truly changed my life without doubt, and still is a big part of my life and will be after footy's finished.
So what do you do?
Honestly, a big part of my meditation is getting outside and getting out in nature. And it sounds a bit corny, but I find time in the vineyard just plodding away and cruising through the various tasks is pretty therapeutic for me. And on game day, I'd find myself getting pretty wound up as a young player and getting caught up in the emotion of the game. And then now, as I've gotten a bit older and learned to control my emotion a bit more and control my thoughts on game day, that my mindset's much more consistent, and as a result, my football is much more consistent. So I'm just sort of enjoying it as it comes at the moment and enjoying being involved with Emma for sure.
Do you think about footy much when you're here?
No, not really. I think that's probably the best thing, is that your mind's constantly in farm mode, I guess, and you're always doing something new, even the start of the day to the end of the day. And you kind of get immersed in it, really. Like, there's parts of the property that I love that you can't get mobile reception on, and it's really nice to kind of just completely switch off and spend time out in the paddocks, not thinking about footy at all.
So, Dylan, my knowledge of wine is that I like a good red, but I don't really know much about grapes and about wine. So talk us through what we've got going on here.
So right now we're in the Chardonnay block. We're 700 metres above sea level and in cool climate. So challenging growing conditions, but that means really high quality fruit and hopefully really high quality wine from that as well.
So how have you learnt about all of this?
I was passionate about it for a long time, even when I was playing, and fell in love with the wine industry quite a while ago and wanted to get hands-on. Managing a vineyard ourselves posed a certain amount of challenge, but at the same time, it's probably made me realise that this is definitely what I'm passionate about and what I want to do in the future for sure.
Winter, middle of footy season, gets pretty cold in Melbourne, gets colder here, it snows.
Yes, so we get a pretty good dumping of snow about half a dozen times a year, which makes it pretty fresh. There's been times going to footy and I've had snow in the car, which is a different experience.
Sorry, Dimmer, I'm late. My car's been snowed in.
Yeah, I haven't used that one yet. There's been a few close calls, but I haven't used that one. Harvest for us is around March, April, depending on what the season's doing. Because we are cooler climate, it takes a bit of time to ripen the grapes. You need a bit of heat to finish off the season nicely and get that sugar content right up.
So they're little at the moment.
Yes.
How much bigger do they get?
These are all about double in size, and they're still pretty taut and sour at the moment, but you can try a Chardonnay, a cool climate Mount Macedon Chardonnay.
I'll give it a go.
A bit sour.
Bit sour.
A bit on the on the back of your tongue.
All right, Dylan, what's harder, lining up on Buddy Franklin or managing the farm and the winery?
Two different challenges. I'm not going to pretend that either would be easy, but both I really enjoy, and I'm so lucky to have two passions completely different to each other and be able to live both at the same time.
So what's it like when you get that bottle of wine that it's your baby, your blood, sweat and tears have gone into it and you have the first glass? What's that moment like?
It is pretty special because, I mean, you've nurtured this fruit for a long time, 12 months at least, and there's so much that could go wrong, there's so much that could go right, and every season is completely different with different challenges.
Like footy.
Exactly like footy, and to have that first glass is pretty special, pretty rewarding. We definitely celebrate when first vintage comes out.